to Mrs. Royce's class. Today we continue with our study of the clock and learning how to tell time. So today's lesson is titled Time to 5-Minute Intervals. And as we go through that lesson, we're going to think about our objective. Our objective tells us what we're going to be learning. So students will tell and write time to the nearest 5 minutes. We will skip count in intervals of 5. So if I just think about my objective, 5 minutes skip counting. I know that many of us, or everyone actually, should know how to skip count by 5s. And then we have the word intervals of 5. So to just help you understand what our objective is and what intervals refers to, I wrote it right here. So intervals refers to periods of time. And the periods of time that we're talking about for today's lesson is 5 minutes. So we're going to practice skip counting by 5s to tell time to 5-minute intervals. And once again, we're using our handy dandy analog clock, which is what we're going to focus on today for telling time to the 5-minute intervals. I always refer back to our charts, which we have 2 fabulous charts that we're using today to help us with this lesson. We see the examples of the digital clock, which is the one that just shows the numbers on a screen. And then we have our analog clock. So we can refer back to our posters, or we could just look at this clock. And once again, I told you the whole key to learning how to use an analog clock is knowing the difference between the hour hand and the minute hand. Because if you don't know that, then you are really going to struggle with using the analog clock. So put your thinking cap on and think about what we've learned in the past lessons. We learned that the short hand, the red hand in this case, tells us the, what does it tell us? It tells us the hour. Yes, it is our hour hand. And the longer hand, for this clock, it's the blue hand, tells us what? It tells us the minutes. Yes, so we have the hour hand and the minute hand. And if you look at this clock, what time is it? If you said 1 o'clock, you are awesome. And that was our first lesson that we studied with time. We learned to tell time to the hour. Now, of course, we know that time moves, time passes by. It's not always on the hour. So, this hand is moving and it's at different times. So it's not always as easy as saying it's 1 o'clock because our minute hand moves. So we really have to understand how to read the clock. Now this clock is awesome because, of course, like all analog clocks, it has the hours marked inside, 1 to 12. But this one out here actually went ahead and marked the minutes in the 5-minute intervals. If you recall, we said that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. And there are 60 little lines that go all the way around the clock to show each minute. It represents 1 minute, each one of those little lines. But instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we know that we could skip count by 5s because it's quicker and it's easier and faster for us to tell time that way. So being able to skip count by 5s is going to be super helpful for today's lesson. Now, everybody should be very familiar with skip counting by 5s. So let's just look at this clock and let's just focus on the outside minutes that mark the 5-minute intervals. And let's count them together. So you're going to follow my finger as we go around the clock. So let's begin with right here. So let's say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. 60 minutes in 1 hour. And we just counted, skip counted by 5. So that is going to help us with today's lesson. So if we look over here at this chart, it says, tell me what you know about a digital clock. Tell me what you know about an analog clock. So we already did that. So let's just go ahead and look at the rest of the chart. There you see an example of an analog clock. and it is 9:40. Here we see it in the digital clock. Here we see the analog clock. So I see that the hour hand is getting very close to the 10, but it's not 10 yet. And I see that the minute hand is pointing to the 8. So I could say it's 9, and then I look at my minutes. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. It's 9:40. So it takes 5 minutes for the minute hand to move to the next number. You can skip count by fives to tell time. And let me repeat that again. It takes 5 minutes for the minute hand to move to the next number. So here it's pointing at 8. By the time it points to 9, that means that 5 minutes have passed. 40 to 45 is 5 minutes. 5 minutes have passed. So it takes 5 minutes for the minute hand to move to the next number. And that's when we get to practice our skip counting by 5. So let's look at this clock. Okay, what time is it, boys and girls? Okay, so I could see that my hour hand is still at the 1, and I see that my minute hand is on the 2. So I could look at the minute hand because I know the hour is 1, and I could say 5, 10. It is 1:10. 1:10. And like I said, this clock, for the purpose of teaching people how to tell time, is very helpful because it has the 5-minute intervals written outside of the clock. But usually when you look at a clock, like the one at school or in any type of building, it might not have this. It probably won't have it. So you have to know to count by fives. So let's move it again. What time is it, boys and girls? It is 1. And then I'm going to look at my minute hand. 5, 10, 15. It is 1:15. Or if you remember from last lesson, we can say it is a 1:15. 1:15 or 1:15. So if 5 more minutes pass, what time is it? If you said 1:20, you are correct. I could go back and check. So it's still at the 1 hour. And I count by fives. 5, 10, 15, 20. It's 1:20. What time is it now, boys and girls? Okay, I could see my hour hand is between the 1 and the 2. And my minute hand is on the 7. So I could say 1, and then I count the minutes by fives. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. It is 1:35, boys and girls. What about now? Where's your hour hand? Where's your minute hand? If you said 1:45, you are correct. Or you could have said 1/4 till 2 o'clock. If you remember, we learned that in our last lesson. Okay, what about now? It's not 2 o'clock yet. Okay, remember, we're still in the 1 hour. So it would be 1, and the minute hand's on the 10. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. It is 1:50. In 10 minutes, it's going to be 2 o'clock, but it is not 2 o'clock yet. It is 1:50. Okay, so today's lesson has to do with 5-minute intervals and understanding that every time the minute hand moves from one number to the next, that 5 minutes have passed. If I count the little lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I prove that 5 minutes have passed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every time the minute hand moves from one number to the next number, 5 minutes have passed. What time is it now, boys and girls? This is one that we always have to be careful with because, look, it's not quite 2 o'clock. It's very close to being 2 o'clock. It is 1:55. I will prove it to you. So it's not 2 yet, so we're still in the 1 hour. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. It is 1:55, and in 5 more minutes, it will be 2 o'clock. Yes, it will be 2 o'clock, and now it's 2 o'clock. So you're going to see, once you get so familiar with this clock, you don't need to go back and say 5, 10, 15, 20. You're going to be a pro at it. But the trick to being able to tell time to the 5-minute intervals is knowing how to skip count by fives. So that is the whole purpose of today's lesson. Using what you know about skip counting by fives to tell time to the 5-minute interval. And I hope you watching me use the clock and go around was helpful. But I want you to also get practice. So I'm going to ask you to please take out your math book. Remember, boys and girls, we're working out of volume 2, and we are still in chapter 10. So for today's lesson, you are looking at page 620 and 621 and 622. So those are the pages that you're going to do. You're going to start with page 620. And like I've told you before, please focus on the top of the page because you find very important information there and very helpful information that will be useful for completing the lesson. Okay, they give you a helpful hint. Each mark on the clock face is 1 minute. Each one of those little marks is 1 minute. There are 60 in 1 hour. So they give you clocks, they give you time, and they want you to write the time in the digital clock. So for example, let's look at number 1 together. It says, what time is shown? Use this clock to help you and write the time. So I see that the hour hand is a little bit past the 12, and the minute hand is on the 4. So it is 12 what? If you said 12:20, you are awesome. I could go back and count by fives. 5, 10, 15, 20. It is 12:20. So you're going to get practice with those types of problems. You will do page 620, 621, and 622. I know that all of you guys are amazing at math, and I know that you are awesome at skip counting by fives. Counting by fives is always lots of fun, and you're going to find that very useful for today's lesson. Please make sure that you do this, you complete it, so that when we talk and we meet, if you have any questions, we can answer them together, and we can look at everything and make the most of our time. So thank you very much. I hope today's lesson was helpful, and we'll see each other soon. Bye-bye.